For India, it is their final hit out before the World Cup, and Australia another step on the way to hopefully having some chance of defending the World Cup later in the year. Adam Collins and Mike Hussey previewing the 5-game one-day series between Australia and India starting later in February. Mike, let's start with India. They've comprehensively beaten New Zealand 4-1. They won here 2-1 in the 3-game series in January. They feel as though they're just building perfectly and they're just putting the finishing touches on that squad.
Oh, I totally agree. I think they've got an outstanding one-day team. But the other bonus that they've had, they've kept a group together for a long period of time now. They've got a blueprint of how they want to play their one-day cricket. They know it works. They've got some brilliant match winners in that team as well. And so I think you're right. It's just fine-tuning now and making sure their games and their roles are very clear in the team. So when they hit England for that World Cup, they are just ready to go. I'm
sure it's not unrelated. The fourth one day they did lose against New Zealand was the one that Virat Kohli went home for and took a breather. But that's important in the modern game, isn't it, to sort of manage workloads ahead of a big tournament?
Well, it is. Virat Kohli in particular, he's someone that puts so much effort and energy into every single game that he plays. He plays all three formats of the game. There's a lot of time and effort and stress and anxiety, I guess, that goes into every single performance. So, yeah, it's smart just to give him the odd break here or there, just to freshen him up, because he is obviously their key man, their captain, best batsman in the world. They need him firing if they're going to win the World Cup.
And speaking of key men, MS Dhoni is a man we spent so much time thinking about before he came to Australia as to how he could still be an influence in 2019, what batting position he should be in, whether he should be the builder or the closer or the finisher. Where do you see that? Should he bat at number 4 and try and accumulate and build the innings, or can he still play that role at number 6 or number 7 and stick the landing?
Well, I guess the short answer is he can play both. It depends on what the team balance is and where they see him playing the best role. Personally, I love him in that closing role. He's got so much power, but I also see the value in bringing him in a little bit earlier, because he just sometimes just needs a little bit of time to get in, get used to the bowlers, the pace of the pitch, and he's so good at the run chases. He's so good at chasing down the total, managing where they need to be. We saw it in Australia. He was just incredible at how, it was just like a computer, ticking away. This is where we need to be. We don't need to panic here. No need to take any risks here. Now's the time to go. He just calculates it so well all the way through. So he's an invaluable part of that Indian team. His experience is going to be very important, and don't forget his wicket keeping.
And they've also got an all-rounder like Pandya, who can play that sort of either role as well, but hits the ball a long way, which might free up Dhoni to go up the list and play a different kind of role to what he has in the last couple of World Cups.
Yeah, and that's a good point, and that's maybe why Dhoni probably will bat a little bit higher, because you've got some of the power of Hardik Pandya to come in late. I think this Indian team, they can be flexible too, though.
Yeah.
If the top three are really doing the job and there's an opportunity to get Hardik Pandya up there earlier, they should maybe use that as an option as well. So they've got some very versatile players. They've played a lot of T20 cricket together as well. So I think they've got to go in as one of the favourites.
And spin twins with wrist spinners. We don't normally see two wrist spinners in a white ball side, but when you've got Chahal there and when you've got the left arm wrist spin of Kuldeep-Chahal as well, why wouldn't you play both of them in England?
They should. Because the wrist spinners in one-day cricket have just been so good. Well, the good ones anyway. And it's crucial, because teams these days, they're starting to go hard, and once they get on a roll, it's really, really hard to stop them with the bat. So what do the wrist spinners do? Yes, sometimes they can go for a few runs, but they take wickets. And if you can pick up wickets through those middle overs, you are going to go a long way to winning games. And that's where India has their jokers, and they'll be hard to beat because of those two guys.
We saw how important Chahal was in the final one day against Australia. They do have a bit of a spin problem, don't they? Like we've historically seen in the last 12 to 18 months, this Australian 50-over side unable to make the sort of massive scores that you need to in modern 50-over cricket, and a big handbrake has been their play against spin.
Yeah, exactly right, and they know that, and they're trying to address it. There was a bit of a surprise in the Australian summer when Peter Handscomb came back into the one-day team, performed pretty well, but the reason why he was brought back into the team was because he's perceived as Australia's best player of spin, and so he's going to play a very important role in that middle order. He showed some good signs in the Australian summer. He's going to have some tough cricket coming up against India and Pakistan in the lead up to the World Cup, and will need to play well to cement his place in the team. But yeah, it's been a key problem area for Australia, and they need to sort it out leading into that World Cup.
If you accept the fact that Smith will come in as one of the parts of the glue in that middle order, you've got Khawaja and Marsh and Handscomb currently playing that role in Smith's absence. Is it almost 3 have to fit into 2 by the time we get to the World Cup?
Possibly. Yeah, possibly, and that's where maybe Handscomb is going to have to score some runs to keep his place in the team, because, yeah, Smith playing very well, and that's not going to be easy coming back after a 12-month ban. He's an outstanding player of spin as well, and can be, hold that middle of the innings together. But I think we need more than just one good player of spin. You need a couple in there. And don't forget Glenn Maxwell as well is a good player of spin. So they've got the players there, so it's going to be about finding the right balance. But there's no two ways about it. Opposition teams are going to bowl lots of spin to Australia, and they need to play it well.
Well, Justin Langer made the point during the one-day series here that he thought Glenn Maxwell's best position in the order is 7. I think it's fair to say a lot of people around the country, a lot of commentators, I'm sure Glenn himself would like to bat higher than 7. Where do you fit in that debate?
Well, I think it's a great problem to have. If you've got someone like Glenn Maxwell coming in batting at number 7 for Australia, then you're looking pretty good. Like what I was saying with India, you can have that flexibility. If the team gets off to a great start and in a really good position to launch, send him in early. Send him in ahead of a Peter Handscomb or something like that. There's no problems with that. So I don't mind him down in that role, because if I'm in an opposition team and I know Glenn Maxwell's still to come, to be able to come in and play in those last 10 overs with a lot of freedom and can score so quickly, I'm pretty worried about those last 10 overs. So I don't mind having him there at that role at number 7, but I'm certainly looking to be flexible, and if the situation is there, I'm looking to get him up.
Speaking of the Australian strengths, traditionally it's been fast bowling in 50-over cricket. They get a lot of them back, potentially. You've got Hazelwood and Stark and Cummins, who will feature in the World Cup in one way or the other. Berendorf and Richardson did a really good job as the stand-ins, if you like, when they played India. But you'd have to think that Jai Richardson's just about bowled himself onto the plane already.
Well, anyone who can get Virat Kohli out a couple of times pretty much needs to be on the plane. But yeah, he's an outstanding talent, Jai Richardson. It's going to be really interesting to see what the selectors go for, because in England, yes, I think there's going to be a lot of spin, but it's still early season, and maybe some of the pitches might be conducive to a bit of swing and seam. So I think the Australian selectors really need to have a really good balance, and Jai Richardson is someone that can swing that ball nicely, be complemented well by the likes of Stark and Hazelwood, Cummins, etc. But I still think there's room for those guys that can just nibble the ball around as well.
And Adam Zampa's just about got himself into that primary number 1 spinning role, but Nathan Lyon on the periphery, a man with such experience, he's got to be there and thereabouts.
Yeah, that's true. Nathan Lyon was given an opportunity in this series. I thought he bowled pretty well, actually, against India in the Australian summer. I like having the wrist spinner, though. I like an attacking option in those middle overs. I think it's important. Zampa, I think, has done a pretty good job in the past, and then was sort of found on the sidelines a fair bit. Australia didn't want to play him very often, so that was a little bit strange for me, because he performed pretty well before that. But I wouldn't be surprised if he comes back into the team. 5
one-day internationals between Australia and India. As I said before, India's last chance to fine-tune before England. As for Australia, if they've got a chance, it must start now. Adam Collins and Mike Hussey for Crick Buzz. We can't wait.